So, I appreciate you guys doing the prior two lessons. Some things that we talked about were creating objects. And so, for example, a stock, that's an innovation. That's your innovation. There's no such thing as a stock in the Java language. But whenever you're creating classes, you're actually creating new things that you can use later. But one thing that you should know is when you're solving problems via Java or any other programming language, your objects actually are containers for data. So if we want to describe what a stock is doing, probably we need to begin by listing the various variables that would describe the stock in general. And some of the other things that we talked about were the data types, such as strings and doubles and integers. Strings are words and doubles are numbers that look like this. That looks that way. And an integer is just numbers without decimals. And so let's save that. So you can see with the Brain Center, what we did is we actually created a new instance of a stock, and then we changed its various variables. So what I want to do right now is I want to work on this concept of if-then or if-else statements and conditional evaluation based on data. In order to do that, I actually want to move some of this out of the main, and I want to move it back into the stock by creating what's called a constructor. Now, what the constructor does, this is called a constructor. And we're going to talk about this later, but the constructor is the first thing that happens when an instance of this object is created. So the moment that we have a new stock, these variables will get initialized. And we'll see this idea repeat itself a multitude of times. So instead of accessing the public variables of this object from within the main, which is what we did a minute ago, instead of doing this, we're actually going to delete that. Sorry if that's an error. Instead of doing it there, we're going to do it right here. Now the reason why I can do that is because I've defined these variables up here. So I have symbol, I have industry, IPO quantity, price, and symbol. So down here when I make a stock, I'm actually able to initialize these things. Now what's interesting is I have this variable that's going to get defined. So for example, the industry that this stock will belong to is going to be the locomotive industry. And maybe I'll make this the telecom industry. That illustrates it a little better. So when I'm in the brainstorm, when I'm in the Brain Center, I'm going to say the stock is called ST. And then I'm going to say System.out.println the industry of this stock is st.industry. And so let's give that a little test. And let me say this, it's a very good problem-solving technique to look at a problem one little tiny step at a time. There's very few big hour-long activities that you guys can do with effective results. Really, the effectiveness of your results is really at 2 minutes at a time. Work for 2 minutes and then evaluate what has happened. So don't put 1,000 lines of code down and then decide to run it. Instead, put like 10 lines of code down and then try to test it. So you're never doing anything too intellectually difficult. Always choose to do the most easy thing that you could do next. That would make a difference. Therefore, big problems are really the composition of thousands and thousands of easy steps. And that is what technology developers should keep in mind. Because otherwise, we can't really do stuff. We'd be paralyzed. So let's go ahead and see what our errors are. All right, the industry of this stock is telecom. Now, do you guys see how that happened? Telecom as a variable was established back here in the stock class. right here. And I can reword this. I'd say defense contracting. And so if I rerun this, what is set? That industry is set from within the constructor. And the reason why I want you to know that is because the minute that we start an object, we actually want to fill it with some data when it gets created. That's valuable to us. So that's called the constructor. But also means that we can set this as well. So we can say if st.industry equals ignore case industry, and we'll set up industry ahead of time, or I'll say string ind is equal to telecom, and we'll test this below. But if we say, okay, if the industry of the stock is going to be equal to telecom right here, then let's move that down here. But if it is not, then let's say the industry of the stock is not telecom. Let's give that a shot. Now naturally, System.out is going to print whatever that value is. And we have some equivalents because we have defense contracting. And here, if it's equal to telecom, it's going to say it's telecom. And let's say that. But otherwise, let's have it print something else. So what we're using is we're using the if-else structure to evaluate the contents of the object. The industry of the stock is telecom. Otherwise, the industry of the stock is not telecom. And I'm just copying and paste this here. The industry of the stock is, and using the System.out is a very fun way to help you feel comfortable about what the variables are. It's a very valuable system. Is st.industry. And so let's kind of play this little game to learn the if-else. Okay, the industry of the stock is not telecom. And you guys know that's true because the industry of the stock is defense contracting. Hence, the industry of this stock is defense contracting. So just to review, what we did from the last lesson is we actually took a lot of the initialization of the member variables and we moved that back to the constructor. These, of course, are the member variables, symbol and price. These are the variables that comprise the object itself, and we move them back to the constructor. So we can set these right here. Now, just to prove what's happening, programs are architectural by nature. So I'll say I just called the constructor and then why don't we say the moment it starts the main, why don't we load this up and say main is beginning. Okay, so we have a couple of architectural components coming together. The first is the main, and the moment the main begins, we're going to throw the main is beginning now. And then we're going to create a stock, and the moment that that stock is created, we're going to say, okay, we're going to throw the constructor, which is the first thing that happens when an instance is created. So we're going to say, hi, I just called the constructor. Then we'll set up that object, and then we'll evaluate the contents of the object based upon some criteria. And we'll see if it matches that, and then we'll report what it's actually doing. And that should show off some very good pieces of the architecture of a Java application. So the main just begins, just as we said, and then it calls the constructor, and then we test the industry of that. So that's what I'd like for you to try right now. And why don't we, I'm going to let you go ahead and code that right now, and let's try our results, shall we?